Hello, my lovely Virgo. This is your reading for the week of December 8th. If it resonates, it may never resonate. And it could be Virgo, Sun, Moon, Rising, or a lot of Virgo in your chart. Well, this is very interesting. Soon as I started working with your sign, your collective, what I was being shown was a fedora with a little feather in it. And it was like spade. Sam Spade. It was that old hard-boiled detective story, But then the interesting thing is it got kind of complicated because it was now not just a movie character, a fictional character, but now it is a Star Trek episode where Jean-Luc Picard is playing detective character, an old, the typical hard-boiled film noir detective on the holodeck. It's not Sam Spade, it's Dixon Hill, which is another fictional character created for a holodeck in a show that's already a fiction. This is very interesting to me because what this says as I'm listening to this and feeling this is just like, okay now, Virgo, this might be time for you to really notice where your mind is going into stories that are not real, where you might be noticing you've got resistance around things that are not necessarily things you need to have resistance about, where areas where your pride might be preventing you from really seeing the truth of what's going on, because pride can create a kind of selective deafness or blindness to the facts, to the emotions, the truth of what's going on at an emotional level. That's number one, they're saying. And the second one is that the facts may not be exactly what you think. You may have made assumptions about those things and then moved on again into resistance around what you perceive as having been somebody's motive in something. Okay, that's very clear. Now, what you're being asked to do, my dears, is to focus your energy more towards the sacred. Okay, now what does that mean exactly? Well, the sacred exists within all of us. The sacred is the essential energy that is ultimately manifesting all life. And it is what those of us who are doing this work towards evolving our consciousness and hopefully affecting the conscious mind towards the positive. It's something that we can really use as an anchor point into understanding things from a different level. Being able to look at things from a perspective of higher consciousness rather than through the lens of our wounds and our negative expectations. And I had a very interesting conversation with a friend of mine recently, an earth sign, not Virgo, but an earth sign. And she was saying that she notices now, at this point in life, that she's deliberately slowing things down, is that this gives her the ability now to take the time when she finds herself going into reaction to deliberately shift the consciousness into operating from that higher space, that love space. Now, again, of course, what we know is when we have the time, it's so much easier to choose where we want to come from. Doesn't mean that we don't acknowledge what the feelings are. That's so really important, is to acknowledge the feeling. But then what do we do with the feeling? Do we go, my feelings are hurt, they were bad? Or do we go, my feelings were hurt, is there a reason why? Am I making a story up? Am I in my own holodeck here, where I'm making the story up out of my own mind, but it's not really real? You're being told, my dears, by learning into the quality of the prayerful quality being the mindfulness of the sacred in everything. The mindfulness, the awareness of source existing beyond our personality, beyond just this relationship, and understanding the nature of, well, as best we can, understanding the concept of us as universal beings. That's going to give you the chance to slow down and to really choose how you want to respond to things, and choose whether or not you want to look beyond what is this great fantasy or this story that you've told yourself or that you might be caught up in. Okay? Breathe, my dears. Breathe, 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 breathe. And this is where you get to choose to use your choices to create boundaries for yourself. Now, boundaries, the most important boundaries happen within us. And it's our choice as to where we're going to let ourselves operate from. Break that down into simple terms. Am I going to take the chance to get out of action, like reaction, into understanding why I'm reacting that way and then responding from that? Responding from that might mean setting a boundary with somebody. It might mean realizing that, oh, the boundaries within myself. I need to look at why I slip always into that old sad story or that old victim story or that old not heard story. That's where we get a chance to say, okay, now, is this reality? Is this happening? Or is this a presupposition I have and therefore I read into it that it's there and everything? So boundaries are important for you. And also, Virgos, listen, the difference between boundaries and barriers. Barriers tend to put up walls and tend to be non-negotiable. And while that can feel like it's a safety, and sometimes it absolutely is, it can sometimes, putting up a barrier here can be just as much a reaction as just having none. So when you're setting up a boundary, think of it like this. You're not just keeping other people out. You're also keeping yourself in. And sometimes what that can do is that can actually preclude you being able to see what's really going on for yourself. So a boundary is soft, it's negotiable, it leaves room for movement, okay? Movement within yourself as well, so that you can deal with the thoughts and the feelings as they progress, as opposed to freezing them in time and saying, that's it, okay? Virgos, I think this is really relevant for you in terms of some of the movement forward that I've seen over the months of doing this with you. And what you're being told also, Virgo, is that as you're doing this, as you're looking at the areas where you find that you've become too constricted, instead of going into all the stories about it, allow yourself to use these concepts to help you be able to soften into an understanding of yourself in this, because that's really where the power is. And if you feel like things are becoming too chaotic, breathe, slow down, and take God with you, okay? So you've got the take God with you and the prayerfully. So this is really a reminder for you to allow yourself to work with the reality of the sacred energy in your life and in your personality and in your body and in your consciousness, okay? It is a resource for you that already exists within you. It's simply a matter of choosing to aim in that direction, and it will become more and more of a consistent response, and it will happen a lot more organically and automatically the more that you do it, because it's the place from which balance happens, and nature loves balance. Okay? And we've got to remember, Virgos, my God, you're an earth sign. The earth loves balance. Okay, my dears, you take care.